Angeline and Jarrad from Beachwood, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're at Mannys store DJ doing this interview. I'm wondering, when you were starting out, was there a music store that you gravitated to either buy gear or just peer in the window?
I mean, I was always an Allen's girl, just because it was in the city and that's where I spent most of my time. So I would definitely just go there and noodle on a whole lot of guitars. Yep. What about yourself?
Allen's.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it was no, I'm not going to remember the name of it. But I think it was Allen's. I think the guy who I told you before, the guy who walked in, I bought my first keyboard off him. And it was like I'd met a rock star, because he made me on the path to a superstar.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mannys also, but Allen's I think was probably the main one.
Yeah. Well, what was your first real professional entry into the music industry?
In terms of gear?
No, just performing.
Performing, oh, okay. I started I classically trained on piano for many years, but I went and studied civil engineering and a commerce degree because my parents said you can never make money off music. But I was having singing lessons with someone who started a record company and needed a producer, engineer. I interviewed for the job, had to interview for the job, and got it. And it was like overnight I got into the music industry and was paid. It was very nice.
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble knowing what that means. What does professional or successful mean in the industry? But I've been to kind of like a grassrootsy Melbourne indie scene for a while, and then I moved to LA for a year, and yeah, was suddenly meeting all these people that were like, I do this for a living. Didn't think that was possible in the people that I know in Australia. So I met Jarrad there as well, and that sort of kick-started the pathway to where we are today of working together. So yeah.
Beachwood, what does it mean?
What does it mean? Well, we met in LA, and it was pretty fun. Like, we didn't know each other in Melbourne, but we actually grew up in the same suburb in Melbourne. And then when we were in LA, we'd both happened to choose like Beachwood as our first kind of suburb of where we were living. So it just made sense. Like, there's something there, let's call it Beachwood. Yep.
Yeah. Jarrad, your bio says that you've got some writing credits with some pretty amazing people, Charli XCX, Lana Del Rey, Lauryn Hill. Tell me what's involved in that.
I guess a lot of luck, a lot of hard work, a lot of disappointment most of the time. Yeah, it's what I started to do after that initial job in that label. I had it was one of those, literally walked into the studio, they needed an engineer. I could write as well. I wrote on the record and it had a couple of number ones off it, and that just opened up a path of being able to do it, being able to leave that company and actually do it for myself. And then I moved to London pretty much straight away because I thought, well, we found out my wife had a passport, so we thought, let's go. And it was just going to help creatively. I think Australia is awesome, but I wanted to push myself. The path I was on in Australia maybe needed to be stretched a little bit more. So yeah, it's funny when you walk into the room with someone like Lauryn Hill. She has a lot of you get called 3 or 4 days before, and you get a list of things you can and can't do, and where you can and can't look, and it's pretty weird. But we seemed to break that barrier down within a few days, which was nice, and it became normal again. It's just everyone's different, and I think it's still something I absolutely love doing. It's almost like speed dating, but for songwriting. You go in one day and you write, and you hope that it works.
And Lana Del Rey, what was the connection there?
Again, it was one of those speed dating situations where they sent her, you should write with Lana Del Rey. She hadn't had anything out at the time, and she was just this kid who was making videos on her very bad laptop during the session and going, what do you think of this? I think it's pretty cool. And I was like, are you doing that yourself? How are you doing it? I'm just holding it up. There was just a connection. I think half the time you're just looking for that personal connection. So then you can carry on doing it more frequently and that's where you most likely have something that works.
Yeah. Angeline, speaking of clips, you do a little bit of acting as well?
Yeah, more out of like default. I do some acting, I do enjoy it. I guess like performing in music and acting as well, there's kind of a bit of a crossover there with, I grew up kind of doing a lot of stage performing, so yeah.
So musically, do you both have similar tastes? Grew up listening to similar things?
I think so. I mean, we both have really broad tastes.
Yeah, it's pretty broad.
Yeah. Like what we make and then what we listen to, it's like, it's part of what we listen to, but it's pretty broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably more on the electronic side of things.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I don't know. We both listen to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
In general, what's the starting point for a Beachwood track?
You can take this one.
Varies kind of. Same. Probably majority it's been some kind of a sonic inspiration, whether that's a beat, whether that's like here's a loop that I've made that we write to, or sometimes it can be like more of a fleshed out track. Then again, I think that's what it has been, but I think based on what we did recently, I think we're going to go into a period of just, hey, let's start something today and see what comes of it, and have capture that real. We had a period of time, I guess that was based on logistics, because we actually had a period of time where she was in Melbourne, I was still in LA. So the chance of sitting in there and going, let's start something right now, it was pretty minimal. So we had to start with some kind of inspiration. Yeah. But I think moving forward, the one we did was really cool because it still feels like we've captured something in the room, and I think that's, that's always the best creativity.
You've just released 2 singles. Marbles is one of them. How did that come together?
It started quite a while ago with a couple of other writer friends in LA, and it just sat there as a bit of an idea. It never was fleshed out, and I just showed it to Ange, and she seemed to vibe off it. And then she wrote part of it as well, and there was an MC. I always thought it would be cool. I've always liked hip hop, and I've always tried to bring it in because
got it in there.
I'm just trying to be cool the whole time. I've always wanted MCs on records. I just think I love it. But so my publisher actually sent the track to a guy in Texas named Tray Haggerty, and he put a verse in, the classic second verse, give it to the MC, and that's what it was. But then there was one moment. I think it was a moment where I called Ange and I said, we have to start really pushing ourselves. We have to start like doing something that's unique. And I had this idea of maybe using a verse, using his verse somewhere else, and that became the chorus, which was a kind of cool thing. And you don't expect it, and it was a little bit different. And then Ange she molded her stuff around it. So it was over a long period of time actually, and many versions of the record, as there always are when I make a record. There's like 100 of them.
The other single was God Only Knows, which some say is the perfectly written song. Was there any trepidation about messing with perfection?
Yes. We've probably been talking about doing a cover of that song for, we've been like
a long
at the start
time.
of when we kind of officially formed as a band. It was thrown in there in the room with the label as an idea. So we probably were procrastinating it for a little while.
I didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, scared to stuff it up. But I'm super proud of where we ended up with it. I think like we made it our own, but it's still got like a nostalgic feel to it. Yeah.
Did you try different styles and different tempos, different sounds before you arrived at the final version?
I didn't. That's the reason why I didn't touch it for a long time, because I didn't want to go down the path of 100 versions on that, because I think, like you say, it's the perfect song. You either capture a vibe that feels good, or it was just never going to work because it was always just going to be this really lame version of, you can't. He almost had gone as far as he could with where mentally you could think about making a song like that. So I wanted ours to feel like it was more of a vibe. And it was like after another session, I thought I really should, maybe I'll just, because I knew if I started it, I had to finish it. I had to capture that vibe, not necessarily finish the whole thing, but the tone had to be set. Go one. And I think it was like 1 in the morning. I was like, oh, I got to the point where I think I was just beyond thinking. So let's load it up and let's try. And that's the whole kind of, the essence of it was there, you know, in that first couple of hours. And then it was just a matter of fleshing it out.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I noticed about your music is there is space and air in it, as opposed to a lot of other electronic music, which is just a wash of sound. Is that a conscious thing?
Yeah, it's been a goal of mine. It's like, it almost makes me cry to say someone heard space
I know,
in
I
my
was like,
music.
oh yeah.
Because I've been trying to get that for, ever since I started actually, trying to learn what not to put in and trying to learn. I think restraint in music is one of the hardest things to perfect. And I love restraint, and I think the space also makes it maybe hopefully feel a little bit more organic, because space is all around us and it's very natural. So I think the less we put in, the more those bits have an impact and feel a little bit more organic-y maybe, but that might just be too early in the morning to be getting all trippy.
No, I reckon. Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about the tools that you use to make your music. What are the main gadgets that you use?
Yeah, I grew up on Pro Tools. Back in the day, there was like Cakewalk and Pro Tools. And Cakewalk just was like, you couldn't really do much. Then Pro Tools came out, so I started on Pro Tools and did everything in Pro Tools. Logic wasn't really a thing. And just carried on doing everything in Pro Tools. So that's my door is Pro Tools. I use Ableton. I have periods of time where I'm super into Ableton, and then I'll just come back to Pro Tools. But that's the door is mainly that. I use Universal Audio, an Apollo Twin is for my sound card, and various outboard gear. I run pretty much everything through an API, 512 I think it is, preamp. That's the preamp, isn't it? Yeah, it's the preamp. I have a Moog, I have an OP1 by Teenage Engineering. That would be on absolutely everything. It's just cool. I think it's dirty, and the samples are, you can hit the same thing 10 times and somehow it changes, but it shouldn't be because it's a sample. It's just a little bit. I remember the first time when I was working with Charli XCX, there was another producer who she worked with. He was in the room on one of the sessions and he had it on his lap, and he was a genius at it. He was like, just wait 5 minutes, and he'd play the drums with it on his lap, and he'd sample it, he'd chop it up, and he was a genius at that thing. And I said, man, you got to teach me it. And he said, there you go. And I was like, no, come on, man, show me what to do. And he said, I actually don't know what to do. Other than that sampling thing, he knew nothing about it. And he said, I just fiddle. And I think that's what I love about that piece of gear. But I have a piano, like a upright piano that we record on stuff, and guitars, and try and make it not all just in the box sample stuff. These days I get really bored of in the box stuff. I feel like it's just, I like to touch something. Something happens when you record it through a preamp. It's nice.
Is there a particular package of sounds that you use?
No, not really. It's mostly, a lot of the time it starts with a vintage synth, whether that's a soft synth or an outboard piece of gear, but no, not really. I'll sample a lot of stuff on most of my percussive stuff will be like a 57 in the room, and I'll hit the desk, or I'll put a pillow on a couch and hit it, and that will become a drum, or little bits like that. Because I think it makes it feel so many years of just flicking through kick drums. It's like, oh man, it's not good. I should use Splice more, but just the whole listening to it all bothers me. I'm not very good at listening to it.
You mentioned a Moog.
Yeah.
Which model Moog do you use?
I have the Grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's dope. It's really cool. I like the fact it's got a little bit of reverb on it, and it's not like it's semi-modular, so you can do crazy stuff with it, but it doesn't require you to have all the cables patched in like this guy probably to even start it. I think that bothers me a little bit, and Yes, great. It's a cool. I have a Minotaur as well, and they're quite different. I'm surprised the same company, bass synth, should be able to, but they're different. Yeah, I do like Moog. I think it's as a kid you always dream of a Moog, so they got me. They had me at hello.
Angeline, you basically you're the vocalist for the band, but you also play a little bit of guitar, do some songwriting on guitar.
I do, yeah.
Tell me about your guitar.
About my guitar. I have a Martin. I can't tell you
Nice.
exactly what the model is. It's like an X something something. I don't know. It's numbers and letters.
Where did you get it?
I got that from Cranbourne Music Store. I think that's where I got it from. My grandpa bought it for me. Or I paid for half and he paid for the other half, which was like, yeah. So that was my first kind of, proper guitar. And I loved it and I still have it and I still love it. Yeah.
This week, you're looking at your first ever stage performance. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, it's a debut as Beachwood, but both of us have performed for years, so I think this is probably the most fun sort of party music that I've done live. It was kind of more indie folk rock stuff beforehand, and there's always something where you're holding your guitar and you're like, I just wanna like throw my hands up a bit and like dance around a bit more. So I think it's gonna be super fun. Yeah,
I think it'll be good. There's a technology side of playing live in this kind of an act that I think it's sorted.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's I think there's also the one bit I probably haven't shared it with Ange. You hope that the songs feel really good live, because a lot of the time you might DJ them and you'll get a sense of it, or you're playing a band and you get a sense of it, then you record it. We kind of go the other way around, and you hope that it's going to be really weird if one that we thought was sick, you hear it live and you're like, it's maybe not so good. So I think it'll be inspiring. I think we'll learn a lot from it, and we'll probably learn a lot of what we want to do in the future as well.
You've always been involved in various things. Is Beachwood now your focus?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, in terms of a band, for sure. In terms of an act of putting music out and with our names on it, it is, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We're nearly at the end of the year. What does 2020 hold for Beachwood?
Oh, it's a mystery. We'll see. It's a mystery. Who knows what'll happen? I think, as Jarrad said, like doing the live show and having that kind of live interaction with a swarm of people, not a swarm of,
it's gonna be
a swarm of people that are, I think that's going to be a really interesting kind of, look into, well, what just feels good with, this many people in the room. Because at the end of the day, like, you're making music for yourself, but you're also making music to be enjoyed and to be felt by people. So, whatever they seem to be feeling and experiencing and loving, that will give us a cool indication of, kind of where we go in 2020.
We're putting the finishing touches on an EP. And that it's going to come.
Oh yeah, of course, we do have things. It's not that much of a mystery.
She forgets. An EP, when is it meant to be?
Feb, March. It's hard to say a month.
I think it's
because,
Feb, March, late Feb, early March. And we will do a string of shows as well. So although this is the beginning, we hope the idea is to grow this live thing a lot more. Yeah. But so it should, fingers crossed, 2020 is like really exciting.
Ange and Jarrad, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah.